A lot of it had to do, they say, with Ukraine.
But Mr. President,
it's very interesting. It's very interesting. They have the server, right, from the DNC, Democratic National Committee.
Who has the server?
Now, the FBI went in and they told them, "Get out of here! We're not giving it to you." They gave the server to CrowdStrike or whatever it's called, which is a company owned by a very wealthy Ukrainian. And I still want to see that server. The FBI has never gotten that server. That's a big part of this whole thing. Why did they give it to a Ukrainian company?
Are you sure they did that? Are you sure they gave it to Ukraine?
Well, that's what the word is, and that's what I asked actually in my phone call, if you know.
Right.
I mean, I asked it very point blank because we're looking for corruption. There's tremendous corruption. We're looking for, why should we be giving hundreds of millions of dollars to countries when there's this kind of corruption?
Do you realize how insane of a claim Trump has to make for Fox and Friends to push back? I mean, Trump could say that he ran a 4-minute mile and Steve Doocy would back him up. So for them to push back on his idea that the DNC server is hiding out in Ukraine is a testament to just how mind-numbingly ridiculous it really is. To be clear, Trump is referencing a debunked conspiracy theory regarding a cybersecurity firm called CrowdStrike. The DNC paid CrowdStrike to investigate the hack of its server in 2016, which the company determined emanated from Russia. This finding was then confirmed by the entire intelligence community, but Republicans are claiming that this was all just a big conspiracy, that CrowdStrike was just in cahoots with the Democrats to malign Russia, and that in reality, it was the Ukrainians and not the Russians who were behind the DNC hack, and that the Ukrainians framed the Russian government to make it look like they were working with the Trump campaign. Now, I should note that this is absolutely, unequivocally untrue, and the intelligence community, as well as Mueller's investigation, proved that conclusively. Even Trump's own former Homeland Security advisor Tom Bossert spoke with George Stephanopoulos and condemned the White House for continuing to give oxygen to what he called a deeply disturbing conspiracy theory.
Now, what the president is referring to there is a debunked conspiracy theory that somehow Ukraine, not Russia, hacked the Democratic emails in 2016, and that Ukraine might have the DNC server or Hillary's emails. The details are both convoluted and false. And during your time in the White House, you explained that to the president, right?
I did. It's not only a conspiracy theory, it is completely debunked. You know, I don't want to be glib about this matter, but last year, retired former Senator Judd Gregg wrote a piece in the Hill magazine saying the 3 ways or the 5 ways to impeach oneself. And the third way was to hire Rudy Giuliani. And at this point, I am deeply frustrated with what he and the legal team is doing and repeating that debunked theory to the president. It sticks in his mind when he hears it over and over again. And for clarity here, George, let me just again repeat that it has no validity. The United States government reached its conclusion on attributing to Russia the DNC hack in 2016 before it even communicated it to the FBI and long before the FBI ever knocked on the door at the DNC. So a server inside the DNC was not relevant to our determination to the attribution. It was made up front and beforehand. And so while servers can be important in some of the investigations that followed, it has nothing to do with the U.S. government's attribution of Russia for the DNC hack.
And just this past week, former top Russia and Europe expert on the National Security Council, Fiona Hill, testified under oath that any efforts to push this conspiracy theory were not only completely and utterly false, but playing right into Vladimir Putin's hands.
Based on questions and statements I've heard, some of you on this committee appear to believe that Russia and its security services did not conduct a campaign against our country, and that perhaps, somehow, for some reason, Ukraine did. This is a fictional narrative that has been perpetrated and propagated by the Russian security services themselves. The unfortunate truth is that Russia was the foreign power that systematically attacked our democratic institutions in 2016. This is the public conclusion of our intelligence agencies, confirmed in bipartisan congressional reports. It is beyond dispute.
So why is Trump so desperate to legitimize this conspiracy theory? Simple. He's trying to prove that Giuliani's reason for being in Ukraine, the entire basis for Trump's impeachment, was legitimate. He's trying to prove that there really was corruption that needed to be dealt with. He thinks that if he can show that some DNC server is hiding out in Ukraine, that Giuliani's actions were warranted all along and that there was no basis for impeachment. Of course, that's complete BS. We know that there's no server in Ukraine. We know that the Russians were behind the DNC hack in 2016, and we know that that was just a desperate excuse to justify Trump withholding military aid to extort Ukraine for his own personal benefit. And beyond that, Trump is just looking to nurse his bruised ego. There was a 2-year investigation that showed that his campaign cooperated with Russian officials working to benefit Trump. The Mueller report proved that conclusively, even if there was still plausible deniability as to whether Trump officials knew that this behavior was illegal. But Trump is hell-bent on clearing his name, which is why he's desperate to try and prove that Russia had no involvement in the 2016 election and that the whole Mueller probe was just some Democrat hoax. Of course, we know it's not. Again, the entire intel community has proven that it wasn't. But this isn't about facts. It's about doing whatever he possibly can to massage his own ego. And I know what you're thinking. Donald Trump using every taxpayer-funded apparatus of the federal government to try and disprove an issue that was already investigated and adjudicated for the sole purpose of benefiting him personally and politically? Him? No. The fact is that Trump is getting more and more desperate and is willing to say anything, literally anything, that he thinks might be able to save him. Now, we know that he's just doing himself more harm than good, considering if he had a legitimate excuse, something that actually exonerated him, he'd have probably used it by now. But the fact that he's forced to spout off insane conspiracy theories that even Fox and Friends hosts don't believe doesn't exactly do wonders for his credibility. But if Trump wants to continue hurting his own cause on national television, then, well, it's a free country.